What if the secret to winning has nothing to do with luck, timing, or circumstances? What if the people who achieve extraordinary results are not waiting for success to appear before they believe in themselves? What if they have already accepted success internally long before anyone else could see it? Most people live in reverse. They wait for the promotion before feeling successful. They wait for the money before feeling abundant. They wait for the relationship before feeling loved. They wait for the results before thinking like a winner. But this way of living places your power in the hands of circumstances. The truth is that every victory begins long before it becomes visible. Every achievement starts as a belief. Every transformation begins as an assumption. Before the world reflects success back to you, you must first accept it within yourself. Today, I invite you to adopt a new perspective. Stop measuring your future by your current circumstances. Stop asking the world for permission to believe in your potential. Instead, begin thinking from the version of yourself who has already succeeded. Because the moment you start thinking like a winner before the results appear, you stop chasing success and start embodying it. Take a deep breath. Open your mind to new possibilities and allow yourself to step into the mindset that changes everything. Let's begin. Every victory that has ever been achieved in the outer world began as an invisible reality within someone's mind. Before the success was recognized, before the goal was accomplished, before the dream became visible, there was first a shift in consciousness. This is a principle that many people overlook because they have been conditioned to believe that circumstances create confidence. They assume that success produces a winning mindset. Yet the truth is often the exact opposite. A winning mindset produces success. The outer victory is simply the reflection of an inner decision that was made long before anyone else could see the evidence. Most people spend their lives waiting for results before they allow themselves to think like winners. They tell themselves that they will feel confident after they succeed, feel worthy after they achieve their goals, or feel abundant after they acquire more money. In doing so, they place their emotional state at the mercy of external conditions. Their confidence rises when things go well and disappears when challenges arise. This creates an unstable foundation because circumstances are constantly changing. True transformation begins when you realize that your inner state should not depend upon your current results. Instead, your results eventually begin reflecting the state you consistently occupy within. Think about the person who achieves something extraordinary. Long before the achievement becomes visible, they have already accepted a new identity internally. They no longer see themselves as someone hoping for success. They begin seeing themselves as someone who is successful. This shift may seem subtle, but it changes everything. The moment a person accepts a new self-concept, their thoughts, decisions, actions, and expectations begin changing. They stop approaching life from a place of limitation and start approaching it from a place of possibility. Consciousness is where every experience begins. Your assumptions about yourself influence how you perceive opportunities, how you respond to challenges, and what you believe is possible. If you see yourself as incapable, you will unconsciously limit your actions. If you see yourself as unlucky, you will expect disappointment. If you see yourself as unworthy, you may reject opportunities that could transform your life. These assumptions operate quietly in the background, shaping your experience without you even realizing it. This is why changing your consciousness is so powerful. It changes the source from which your experiences emerge. Imagine standing before a mirror. The reflection cannot change unless the person standing in front of it changes first. In the same way, your external world often reflects your dominant state of consciousness. If you continue identifying with failure, struggle, or limitation, the reflection remains the same. But when you begin identifying with success, confidence, and possibility, a new reflection starts forming. The change may not happen instantly, but the process begins the moment your inner state changes. One of the reasons people struggle with this idea is because they rely too heavily on appearances. They look at current circumstances and allow them to define their identity. If they experience setbacks, they conclude they are failures. If they encounter obstacles, they assume success is out of reach. Yet circumstances are temporary. They do not define who you are. They are simply conditions that can change. Your identity should be based on the reality you choose to accept within yourself, not on the conditions you happen to be experiencing at the moment. A true winner understands this principle. They do not wait for the world to validate them before believing in themselves. They make the decision internally first. They choose confidence before achievement. They choose faith before evidence. They choose possibility before proof. Because of this, they move through life differently. They see opportunities where others see obstacles. They persist when others quit. They remain focused on the vision rather than becoming discouraged by temporary appearances. Winning begins the moment you stop identifying with your current limitations and start identifying with your desired reality. It begins when you decide that your future will not be determined by your past. It begins when you accept a new version of yourself as real, even before circumstances confirm it. This inner acceptance creates a foundation upon which all external success is built. So, if you want to think like a winner before the results appear, start by changing your consciousness. Stop asking whether you are capable and begin assuming that you are. Stop waiting for evidence and begin cultivating belief. Stop defining yourself by what has happened and start defining yourself by who you are becoming. Because every victory, every achievement, and every success story begins in the same place within. The world eventually reflects what consciousness consistently accepts. And the moment you accept yourself as a winner internally is the moment the process of external victory truly begins. One of the most powerful shifts you can make in your life is learning to feel the victory before it becomes visible. Most people believe that emotions should follow results. They assume that confidence comes after success, gratitude comes after receiving, and joy comes after achieving a goal. Because of this belief, they spend much of their lives waiting. They wait for circumstances to improve before allowing themselves to feel fulfilled. They wait for the opportunity, the promotion, the relationship, the financial breakthrough, or the achievement before experiencing the emotions associated with those outcomes. Yet the greatest transformations occur when you reverse this process and begin feeling the emotions of success before the evidence appears. Think about how you would feel if your desire were already a reality. Imagine that the goal has been achieved, the problem has been solved, the opportunity has arrived, the breakthrough has happened. What would be different inside you? You would probably feel relieved. You would feel grateful. You would feel confident and secure. There would be a sense of calm certainty because the struggle would be over. The outcome would no longer be in question. These emotions are not insignificant. They are powerful indicators of the state you would naturally occupy if your desire were already fulfilled. Most people stay emotionally connected to wanting rather than having. They continually think about what is missing. They focus on the distance between where they are and where they want to be. As a result, they remain in a state of longing. Their thoughts, feelings, and attention are centered on the absence of what they desire. Yet the state of wanting is very different from the state of possessing. When you want something, your attention is on the lack of it. When you feel as though it is already yours, your attention shifts to fulfillment. This shift changes your relationship with reality. Imagine an athlete preparing for a championship. Before stepping onto the field, they often visualize success. They imagine the victory, the celebration, and the feeling of accomplishment. They mentally rehearse the experience before it occurs. This practice is powerful because the mind responds to vividly imagined experiences. The emotions generated through imagination influence confidence, expectation, and performance. In many ways, life operates according to the same principle. When you consistently experience the feeling of victory within, you begin aligning yourself with a different version of reality. The feeling of victory is not arrogance. It is not pretending to be something you are not. It is the quiet confidence that comes from accepting a new possibility. It is the willingness to emotionally identify with your desired outcome before circumstances have fully caught up. This inner acceptance creates a sense of stability that external conditions cannot easily shake. Instead of being controlled by appearances, you become anchored in the reality you have chosen to embrace. One reason people struggle with this idea is because they are waiting for permission from the outer world. They believe they need proof before they can feel successful. Yet, if everyone waited for proof before believing, very little would ever change. Every achievement begins with someone believing in a possibility that is not yet visible. Every breakthrough begins with a vision that exists internally before it appears externally. The ability to feel victory before it happens is what allows you to move beyond current limitations and step into new experiences. As you practice this principle, you may notice a remarkable change. The desire begins to feel less distant. The anxiety surrounding it begins to fade. Instead of obsessing over when it will happen, you start enjoying the feeling of already being connected to it. You become less dependent on immediate results because the emotional experience you were seeking is already available within you. This creates a powerful sense of freedom. The goal is not to force emotions or convince yourself of something you do not believe. The goal is to gently and consistently return to the feeling you would naturally experience if success were already yours. Spend time imagining the outcome. Feel the gratitude. Feel the relief. Feel the confidence. Allow those emotions to become familiar. Let them become part of your daily experience. Because the moment you learn to feel the victory before it happens, you stop living as someone who is waiting for success. You begin living as someone who expects it. And when expectation, belief, and emotion come into alignment, you create a powerful inner foundation from which external results can grow. The victory is first experienced within, and then, in time, it finds expression in the world around you. One of the greatest challenges you will ever face on the path to success is learning how to ignore temporary appearances. Most people are deeply influenced by what they see happening around them right now. They allow current circumstances to determine their mood, their confidence, and their expectations for the future. If things are going well, they feel hopeful. If obstacles appear, they become discouraged. If progress seems slow, they begin doubting themselves. In this way, their inner state is constantly controlled by external conditions. But those who consistently achieve their goals understand a powerful truth. Temporary appearances are not final outcomes. The world around you is always changing. Circumstances shift. Opportunities come and go. Challenges arise and eventually pass. Yet many people make the mistake of treating present conditions as permanent realities. They look at a temporary setback and conclude that they have failed. They encounter a delay and assume their dream is impossible. They face a difficult situation and decide that nothing is working. What they fail to realize is that current appearances often represent only a small part of a much larger process. Imagine a person planting a seed in fertile soil. For days or even weeks, there may be no visible evidence that anything is happening. If that person judged the process solely by what they could see on the surface, they might conclude that the seed is dead. Yet beneath the ground, roots are forming, growth is occurring, and life is developing. The most important work is happening invisibly. Success often unfolds in the same way. There are periods when little seems to change externally, yet important developments are taking place beneath the surface. The problem is that many people lose faith during these invisible stages. They become so focused on appearances that they abandon their vision prematurely. They check constantly for results. They search for signs. They analyze every circumstance. When they fail to find immediate proof, they begin questioning whether they should continue. This habit weakens their confidence because they are allowing appearances to dictate their belief rather than allowing belief to shape their experience. A winner understands that circumstances are often echoes of past assumptions rather than indicators of future possibilities. What you are experiencing today may reflect previous ways of thinking, previous expectations, and previous beliefs. If you want a different future, you must learn to look beyond the current reflection. You must become more loyal to your vision than to your circumstances. This does not mean denying reality. It means refusing to let temporary conditions define what is possible. Think about some of the most successful individuals in history. Before their achievements became visible, they faced criticism, rejection, failure, and uncertainty. If they had accepted appearances as final truth, they would have given up. Instead, they remained focused on their vision. They understood that temporary conditions were not permanent verdicts. They continued believing in possibilities that others could not yet see. Their success was not created by favorable circumstances. It was created by their ability to maintain faith despite unfavorable appearances. This same principle applies to every area of life. If you desire greater abundance, do not let current financial circumstances convince you that abundance is impossible. If you desire success, do not allow temporary setbacks to define your future. If you desire a better relationship, do not assume that present difficulties are permanent. Circumstances are always subject to change. What matters most is the state you continue to occupy despite those circumstances. Ignoring temporary appearances requires discipline. It requires choosing your vision repeatedly, even when external evidence is limited. It requires returning to your desired reality whenever doubt arises. There will be moments when fear tries to persuade you that nothing is changing. There will be situations that seem to contradict your goals. In those moments, remind yourself that appearances are often incomplete. They show only what is visible now, not what is possible tomorrow. The person who thinks like a winner understands that today's circumstances do not have the authority to define tomorrow's results. They recognize that setbacks are temporary, delays are temporary, and obstacles are temporary. They focus on the destination rather than becoming consumed by the roadblocks along the way. So whenever you feel discouraged by what you currently see, pause and remember this truth: appearances are temporary, but your vision can be permanent. Refuse to let present conditions dictate your expectations. Continue holding the image of the reality you desire. Continue believing in possibilities that are not yet visible. Continue acting from the assumption that success is inevitable. Because the winners of life are not those who never encounter difficulties. They are the ones who refuse to let temporary appearances convince them to abandon their future. They keep their eyes on the outcome, trust the process, and move forward until the invisible becomes visible and the desired reality finally appears. One of the most profound shifts a person can make is learning to think from success rather than towards success. At first glance, the difference may seem small, but it changes everything. Most people spend their lives thinking towards success. They see success as something outside of themselves, something distant, something that may happen someday if circumstances align perfectly. Their thoughts are filled with questions such as, how can I get there? When will it happen? What if it never works out? Although these questions are common, they keep the mind focused on the fact that success has not yet arrived. The individual remains emotionally and mentally identified with the state of wanting rather than the state of having. To think from success is completely different. It means mentally occupying the position of the person who has already achieved the goal. Instead of constantly wondering how to become successful, you begin asking yourself, how would I think if I already were successful? Instead of focusing on what is missing, you focus on what would be true if your desire were already fulfilled. This shift moves your attention away from lack and toward fulfillment. It changes your perspective from striving to possessing. Consider the difference between someone who believes success is far away and someone who believes it is already part of their identity. The first person constantly seeks validation. They look for signs, evidence, and reassurance. Their confidence rises and falls depending on external circumstances. The second person carries a different energy. They move through life with a sense of certainty. They are not waiting for the world to tell them who they are. They have already accepted it internally. Because of this, their decisions, actions, and expectations naturally align with their vision. Many people unknowingly create distance between themselves and their goals because they continue thinking of success as something separate from them. Every time they say, I hope it happens, maybe one day, or I'm trying to become successful, they reinforce the idea that success exists somewhere in the future. The mind continues operating from the assumption that the desired reality is unavailable now. But when you begin thinking from success, the relationship changes. You stop identifying with the person who is struggling to arrive and start identifying with the person who has already arrived. This does not mean becoming arrogant or detached from reality. It means adopting the mindset, attitudes, and assumptions of the version of yourself you wish to become. If you were already successful, how would you approach challenges? How would you speak to yourself? How would you carry yourself throughout the day? How would you respond to setbacks? These questions are powerful because they help you bridge the gap between your current identity and your desired identity. One of the greatest benefits of thinking from success is that it transforms your emotional state. When people think towards success, they often feel anxious because they are constantly concerned about the future. They worry about whether they will achieve their goals. They become preoccupied with timelines and outcomes. Thinking from success creates a different experience. It generates confidence because the desired outcome is no longer viewed as uncertain. It is accepted internally as a reality that is already unfolding. Imagine an actor fully immersed in a role. For the duration of the performance, they do not continually remind themselves that they are acting. They step into the character and think from that perspective. In a similar way, you are invited to step into the mindset of your future self. Think from the version of you who has already achieved the goal. Feel what they would feel. Believe what they would believe. Expect what they would expect. As you practice this, something remarkable begins to happen. Your actions start changing naturally. You no longer need to force motivation because your behavior becomes consistent with your new self-concept. Opportunities that once seemed invisible become easier to recognize. Decisions become clearer. Confidence grows. The outer world begins responding to the person you have become internally. Of course, there will be moments when old habits attempt to return. The mind may drift back into worry, doubt, or uncertainty. When this happens, gently bring yourself back to the state of success. Remind yourself of who you have chosen to be. Return to the perspective of fulfillment rather than lack. Every time you do this, you strengthen the new identity. Success is not merely a destination, it is a state of consciousness. Long before it becomes visible in the world, it is accepted within the mind. The people who consistently achieve extraordinary results are often those who learn this principle. They stop chasing success as something outside themselves and begin living from the awareness that success already exists within them. So stop thinking toward success. Stop placing it in the distant future. Begin thinking from success today. Let your thoughts, feelings, and expectations reflect the reality you desire. Because the moment you think from success, you start becoming the person capable of experiencing it. And as your inner state changes, your outer world gradually begins to mirror that transformation. One of the most important qualities of a true winner is persistence. Not persistence in the sense of forcing outcomes or struggling endlessly, but persistence in maintaining a chosen state of mind. Anyone can feel confident when everything is going well. Anyone can believe in success when results are already visible. The real challenge comes when circumstances appear unchanged, when progress seems slow, or when doubt begins to whisper that nothing is happening. It is during these moments that persistence becomes the key to transformation. The ability to remain faithful to your vision until it feels natural is what separates temporary inspiration from lasting change. Most people begin a new journey with excitement. They hear an inspiring idea, adopt a new belief, and feel motivated for a few days. During this initial stage, confidence is high because possibility feels fresh and exciting. But then reality seems to test their commitment. Results do not appear immediately. Old circumstances continue showing up. Challenges emerge. At this point, many people abandon the new assumption and return to old patterns of thinking. They conclude that nothing is working because they expected instant evidence. What they fail to understand is that every meaningful transformation requires a period of persistence. Think about learning any new skill. When you first begin, it feels unfamiliar. The movements are awkward. The habits are unnatural. Progress may seem slow. Yet through repetition, something changes. What once required effort becomes automatic. What once felt foreign becomes familiar. The same principle applies to your assumptions about yourself and your future. If you have spent years identifying with limitation, doubt, or fear, a new mindset may initially feel unnatural. But that does not mean it is wrong. It simply means it is new. This is where persistence becomes essential. Every time you return to your chosen assumption, you strengthen it. Every time you choose confidence over doubt, possibility over limitation, or success over failure, you reinforce a new identity. At first, these choices may require conscious effort. You may need to remind yourself repeatedly of the reality you wish to experience. Yet with consistency, the new state gradually becomes more natural than the old one. Many people make the mistake of judging their progress based solely on external results. They believe that if circumstances have not changed quickly, then their inner work is ineffective. However, the most important changes often occur before there is visible evidence. Your thoughts begin shifting. Your reactions become different. Your expectations improve. Your emotional responses change. These internal transformations are signs of progress, even if the outer world has not yet fully reflected them. Persistence allows these changes to deepen until they become part of who you are. Imagine a river carving its way through stone. It does not accomplish this through forceful bursts of energy. It succeeds through consistency. Day after day, the water continues flowing. Over time, what once seemed solid and unchangeable begins to transform. Your assumptions operate in a similar way. Consistent attention to a new reality gradually reshapes your consciousness. What once felt impossible begins to feel likely. What once felt distant begins to feel natural. One reason persistence is so powerful is because reality often reflects what you repeatedly accept as true. A single moment of belief may inspire you, but a sustained belief has the power to alter your experience. When you consistently return to the feeling of success, abundance, confidence, or fulfillment, you are teaching your mind a new way of seeing life. Eventually, the new perspective becomes automatic. You no longer need to convince yourself because it feels normal. This is the goal, to persist until the desired reality feels natural, not forced, not artificial, natural. When something feels natural, there is no inner struggle. There is no constant need for reassurance. There is a quiet certainty. You stop wondering if success is possible because it feels like a normal part of your identity. You stop questioning whether things will work out because expectation has replaced doubt. There will be moments when old thoughts attempt to return. There will be situations that challenge your faith. But persistence does not mean never experiencing doubt. It means refusing to live there. It means continually returning to the reality you have chosen. It means reminding yourself that temporary appearances do not define your future. Every time you return to your vision, you strengthen it. So if you want to think like a winner before the results appear, make persistence your companion. Continue choosing the state you desire. Continue identifying with the version of yourself you wish to become. Continue returning to confidence, even when circumstances seem uncertain. Continue believing in possibilities that are not yet visible, because what you persist in eventually becomes natural. And when success feels natural within you, the outer world begins finding ways to reflect it. The person who persists long enough is often the person who experiences the transformation they once only imagined. Keep going. Keep believing, keep returning to the vision, and persist until it feels natural. As we come to the end of this message, remember that true success is not something you eventually become. It is something you choose to embody long before the evidence arrives. The world often teaches us to believe after we see results. But lasting transformation happens when you believe before the results appear. When you consistently think, feel, and act from the state of success, you create a foundation that circumstances eventually reflect. Do not allow temporary setbacks to define your future. Do not allow delays to weaken your confidence. Every great achievement passes through a period where nothing seems to be happening. Yet beneath the surface, changes are taking place. Opportunities are forming. Paths are opening. Possibilities are moving into position. Your task is simple: remain loyal to the version of yourself who has already succeeded. Think like a winner when others doubt. Feel successful when circumstances challenge you. Expect favorable outcomes even when the path is unclear. The person you become internally always comes before the results you experience externally. So leave this message with a renewed sense of confidence. Carry yourself differently. Think differently. Expect differently. And remember, winners are not created by results. Results are created by those who first learn to think like winners. The victory begins within. Thank you for spending this time with me today. If this message inspired you, encouraged you, or shifted your perspective in any way, please support the channel by liking this video, subscribing, and sharing it with someone who needs this reminder. And in the comments below, write, "I think like a winner before the results appear." Let those words become more than a comment. Let them become a commitment to a new way of thinking and living. Thank you for your support, your presence, and your belief in what's possible. Until next time, continue to expect the best, believe in your vision, and remain faithful to the success that already exists within you. Take care, and I'll see you in the next